Well, I think Maryland has a chance to get to the Final Four. That's been my #2 seed pick all along, so I'm sticking with that.
Because, so not Duke.
Not Duke, because wait till you see Stanford roll it out next.
Yeah, and with their bigs, even though Duke is tall, I just wonder if they can handle. Although the point guard matchup will be interesting with a freshman in orange if Stanford again beats South Carolina against Chelsea Gray. Gray is a scorer where Orange is more of a distributor, although she did have a terrific game in their second-round win offensively. Well,
you see, Duke doesn't like to extend their pressure very often, only situational. So thinking that full-court pressure will bother Stanford in that if Stanford advances against South Carolina, I don't see that being a factor. But, you know, we're going to have a similar situation in the next game. South Carolina, very similar in makeup to what St. John's is. Very good off the bounce, good guard play, undersized on the interior. You got to figure out a way to get one of those Agumekes in foul trouble.
Shea Selby now leading Duke in scoring in this game with 13 points as the Blue Devils are over 60%. He shot around 65% in their second-round game against Vanderbilt. To your point about when they win, they shoot well, and when they don't shoot well, they usually lose. Now, I know that's the case for a lot of teams, but it's certainly the case with Duke.
Well, you know me, Dave. I'm all about offense. You know, I don't really care about defense. If teams play well, I think a good offensive team will always beat a good defensive team. And it's about sharing the basketball and having 5 scorers on the floor, and Duke has that. I mean, I thought the other 4 minus Selby were solid contributors all season. If Selby's going to play like this as a senior to bring her game to an additional level, then that changes things on the floor spacing-wise.
Williams with a miss inside, and Peters couldn't hit. Look at Williams hustle.
5 minutes a game in the regular season. She's averaging 25 minutes in the tournament. Well, Duke hasn't played a close game. They've been able to rest her.
Out of bounds off Duke. It'll stay St. John's ball. ACC Defensive Player of the Year, Elizabeth Williams. First freshman to win that award. They've got a steal, and Liston now out ahead of 2 St. John's players, gets the easy layup, and the lead is 20 for Duke.
And here comes the full court pressure. If Duke gets a steal and a layup, they always press.
McKenna with a good look, and Chukwu able to put it in.
And that's one of those situational defensive things I was talking about in terms of situational full court pressure. Free throws, a steal, and a layup is an automatic indicator for their full court pressure.
Peters in trouble, and that hit the side of the backboard of Chelsea Gray. There to get the loose ball and score.
Yeah, that's all footwork, playing the game on balance, and Gray stepping through the contact.
They're out hustling St. John's right now.
There's no question. They are quicker to the basketball, whereas in the first 5 minutes of the game, it was St. John's that was quicker.
And Pearson, her 3 off the heel, but long rebound to McKenna. Lost it as she tried to drive, and now Gray will look to push the tempo again.
It looks to me like St. John's has lost a little trust in their offensive system. And now they're really pressing because they can't get stops.
And again, they're one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in the country. Offensive foul as Gray.
Starters for Dawn Staley. They will have their hands full with the Agumekes.
And really all the student athletes we visited with yesterday, just great to talk with. But I think the Agumeke sisters stand out. Just great personality, terrific students as well as athletes.
I mean, just great kids, you know, fun to be around and really enjoying what they have experienced so far and can't wait to get to the next game.
I thought it was really interesting in talking with Tara Vanderveer about how things have changed offensively for Stanford this year, and they're really centering their offense. The centerpiece of the offense is Nneka Agumeke.
Well, in the early part of January, Tara Vanderveer went with Amber Orange and said, we can't wait.
Weaknesses of the 2 teams, the size for Stanford against the lack of size for South Carolina, and the same goes for the 2 teams you're watching right now.
Yeah, 7 players for Stanford are 6'2" or taller, and South Carolina has 1 that doesn't play very much. So it's going to be a speed versus size effort again.
On the drive, Liston with a bucket. Size didn't seem to be a factor early in this game, as St. John's was doing a good job getting into the paint and getting baskets, but Duke has blown the doors off this one.
I think a couple things changed. One is Deshina Stevens picked up her 2nd foul, had to sit. She had scored 10 points in 7 minutes. And then the other thing is the matchup zone by Duke. You know, we alluded to them starting out in man, switching to matchup, and then I thought Joanne McCauley made a good move.
And St. John's went in there unranked at the time and beat them.
I don't know if this matters to you, Dave, or not, but I had St. John's ranked in the AP poll. I mean, I'm an AP poll voter, and I had them in there, so I consider them a ranked team.
We bore the bench at the 13-minute mark. She's played her minutes in this game have been more like what we saw in the regular season. We'll see if Coach McCauley decides to keep her on the Kalia Johnson with a three-point play, and it's a 25-point lead.
And it's not just that Duke is tall, they're long, you know, and that length was a problem. St. John's has lost their focus.
Well, the final spot in Tampa's Frozen Four will be filled tomorrow at 8 Eastern on ESPNU, ESPN3, streaming live on WatchESPN.com. You can follow every championship at NCAA.com. Traveling is called here. Duke consecutive regional final. 2 years ago, lost to Baylor. Last year in the Elite Eight, fell to Connecticut. Will it be Stanford or South Carolina? That will play Duke on Monday night. 9 Eastern from here in Fresno.
Much better ball movement by St. John's this time. Yep. Look what they get, a layup that they blow.
And boy, Shanika Smith really has struggled. 3 of 15 from the field. Meanwhile, Duke continuing to stroke it from deep as well as from inside the three-point arc. Long rebound to Kenneth. And Duke, one of the top shooting teams in the country, 6th in the nation coming into the tournament. As Deshina Stevens gets her 16th point.
But really playing well on the offensive end. I mean, this is, I thought their best performance was against Vanderbilt. They hit every open shot. As a matter of fact, they had 10 consecutive baskets off the matchup zone this half. And it's been very effective. And see, because St. John's is not a good three-point shooting team, look where Chelsea Gray starts the top of that matchup. She's well inside the three-point line. Protecting inside out, making sure they're in good rebounding position.
Tasia Harris missing three-point shot there. And Gray will back it out. And Ray back on the floor after getting stitched up. And Thompson got a piece of that shot.
With Deshina Stevens off to that quick start and struggled with foul trouble, and then Shanika Smith not really getting rhythm offensively. And St. John's has got to have more offense.
And assuming Duke hangs on here, how much pressure will this Duke team be facing? Obviously they're the 2 seed, so they're not favored, but they've lost in the Elite Eight the last couple of years. They lost in the second round 3 years ago. It's a young team, so a lot of these players weren't on that.
Used to that humidity.
They needed 4 shirts for 2 games. And a steal by Selby as McPherson threw it right to her. And then Selby goes behind the back and lost the handle.
Well, Duke has played well in this tournament managing a lead. That's for sure. I mean, they haven't been challenged.
Well, you saw that margin of victory right at the top of the telecast, around 25 points for Duke. Things will be different whether it's South Carolina or Stanford in the regional final in terms of getting a challenge. Certainly if it's Stanford. Harris puts it on the floor, but Vanderbilt cut off the baseline. I don't think she cares. She doesn't mind getting more stitches the way she defends. And that's really how Duke has been. Even with this 23-point lead, they're still getting after it on D. Elizabeth Williams getting opportunity to rest as Selby continues to pile on the points. 15 to go along with 7 assists.
And to me, Selby has been the most impressive player for Duke tonight. She has played a complete game on both ends of the floor, and for a senior, it's exactly the way you want to be playing at this time.
Well, it makes you wonder, okay, you know what you're going to get from Gray and Williams, but if Shea Selby plays like this, what does that do for your offense? You're already, right now anyway, playing as well as anybody in the NCAA tournament offensively.
I mean, what an incredible bonus for her to be playing this well. This is the most she scored all season at the right time. Back-to-back double-figure games in 3 of the last 4. for Selby.
A 23-point Duke lead with 4.5 to go.
Have enough offense. As good as Texas A&M's defense is, with Kelsey Bone on the inside offensively, I think Maryland can neutralize that, and I think their guard play is telling Coach Bonjerico, when Trevor gets a cell phone, I'm going to need his number because he is the best scout in the Big East, potentially. Down the road, that kid's going to be my scout on the East Coast.
He's very good at filling out brackets, I understand,
yes,
for the women's tournament.
So I keep encouraging her to hurry up and give the kid a cell phone. I mean, he's only 10 years old. Come on, I got to have that guy's number.
Let's not set a precedent here for those of us
right.
with 10-year-olds.
Yes,
okay?
I've got a 10-year-old. He's not getting a cell phone.
Entry pass is kicked by Gray, so.
Most pressure game that you coach in. More so than the Final Four of the national championship game. But to get to the Final Four, the pressure that coaches feel is incredible.
See, I don't buy that. How can it be more pressure in the regional final than the national championship?
I think because it's to get to the Final Four. People don't remember who played in the regional final game, Dave.
No, that's true. They don't.
They remember who plays in the Final Four.
Bucket for Verneret.
And of course, they remember the national champion as well. But that's what coaches tell me. I'm going with it.
By the way, Duke with more points in the paint than St. John's has total points, and that was not the story early. St. John's, like right there, was getting into the lane early in the first half.
And Shanika
ready for game 2, which will be over on ESPN2 against South Carolina.
Well, you know they're not going to be able to come out here and touch the balls, though. You know the rule. I believe it's 27 minutes. T3 zone by St. John's.
Final 2.5 minutes of the St. John's season. Is really an outstanding year for the Red Storm. Their highest seed ever in the NCAA tournament of 3, and their first Sweet 16 as Langley is fouled. Stanford in the second round of the NCAA tournament. They, like tonight, led the game early, but Stanford pulled away in the second half. The question is, with Deshina Stevens leaving, yes, they do have underclassmen on this roster. Can St. John's keep it going and challenge again for a Sweet 16 next year?
I think so, because their backcourt will all be back. McKenneth and McPherson, who I call McMoney, and they weren't McMoney today. They struggled offensively. And then Shanika Smith is the highest rated recruit, number 35 in red they've ever had. She's a top 10 recruit. Of course, Duke's had back-to-back #1 recruiting classes, so they have a different.
And of course, the shoot-around with Beth and Debbie, the podcast.
Dave, you have been the biggest promoter of our show in the last 2 weeks. Thank you very much.
Very disappointed that Beth has not been doing a better job of
part to have on that show, that's for sure, because she leads me into all kinds of trouble. She just sets me up and I fall right into it. No, it's really fun. Beth and I have had that show for 5 years, and we're so thankful to be a part of the ESPNW website and all the things that ESPNW is doing on the women's side in college basketball.
You guys will be at the Final Four in Denver. Will Duke be in Denver? The Blue Devils will certainly be here on Monday night in Fresno, a 9 Eastern tip time against either Stanford or South Carolina. And we'll see what happens when if Duke faces a challenge in that game, because for the 3rd straight game here in the NCAA tournament, a blowout win. Although they were challenged early. St. John's got off to a good start, led the game by 8 early. And Duke shut them down.
In another game that Elizabeth Williams plays under her season average in terms of minutes.
How about this for Selby?
Does that count? I mean, really? You're kidding me, right?
They've had 2 buzzer beaters. You saw the one at the end of the first half, which resembled the Bryce Drew Valparaiso play from a decade ago. The tip by Williams to Liston for the 3, and then that one just thrown up at the end of the shot clock by Selby, a career-high 18 points now. Basket by Harris on the other end.
Well, Elizabeth Williams with 10 points played 28 minutes. Once again, staying below her season average in terms of minutes because Duke has not needed her late.
Played 18 minutes in the first half, so just 10 here in the second half. So Duke, for the 3rd straight year, moves on to the regional final. Its 10th regional final in the last 15 years. Trying to go to the Final Four for the first time in 6 seasons. They'll play Monday night here at the Save Mart Center. the